Hello, my name is Mike, and I am a third-year doctoral student in the Experimental Psychology Department at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. In this presentation, I will be talking about my particular field of graduate study, the Experimental Analysis of Behavior, or EAB for short, as well as discussing some tips when it comes to the graduate school application process. I just want to note that the information contained in these slides represents information that I believe I found or would have found especially useful while deciding on areas to study. First, let me talk a little bit about EAB. As a field, we use the principles of learning as described by Skinner and other behavioral psychologists, for example, reinforcement or punishment, to describe and explain changes in behavior. In much the same way that physicists seek to identify laws of nature, behavior analysts seek to identify laws of behavior. We look to find where and why behavior is lawfully related to changes in the environment. After we identify those laws, others may then find them useful to change behavior in some socially significant way. Questions about behavior and then use the scientific method to answer those questions. Typically, this requires the use of animal models in isolated laboratory environments. For example, we might place a rat or a pigeon in an operant chamber with either a lever or a key that can be pressed to administer food. Based on how those simple responses change as a function of changes in the environment, we draw conclusions about that relation. We then tend to generalize that relation to more complex environments or more complex responses. Though most researchers use animal models in EAB, some are starting to implement human models. Really, the sole purpose for asking our types of research questions is to advance our knowledge about behavior. Thus, we are considered basic scientists. Now, as a main distinction between this field and other psychology-related fields, it is the location of causality when it comes to explaining behavior. We assert that changes in the environment cause changes in behavior, and further, that those changes reflect systematic and measurable aspects of behavior. So the main focus seems to be on the environment and the relation between responses and the consequences they produce. In general, behavior analysis includes three overlapping domains: EAB, ABA, and service delivery. This slide is especially nice in that it A, demonstrates the areas of focus for the specific domains, and B, demonstrates the important progression from laboratory to the delivery of specific services. Now, shifting gears just a bit, I now want to talk about the differences between master's level and PhD level graduate study in EAB. For EAB, not much is offered at the master's level. There are some programs, but those programs tend to merge more with applied behavior analysis, or ABA. ABA has a much higher demand for master's level students. This is certainly not the final word on degree offerings, and it may vary from school to school. However, most people who become involved in EAB as a field seek a PhD with the intent to become a professional researcher. This typically results in joining academia and becoming a university professor. Recently, however, a large demand for behavior analysts has come out of behavioral pharmacology to study how differing drugs affect behavior. School application process. I must note that this process is probably a bit different for everyone, but there are some general tips that will help the student interested in applying to this field. Now, these tips are beyond the required materials needed for submission. For example, I won't really speak to transcripts, GPA, GRE scores, etc. Before you apply to graduate school, and really during your undergraduate education, I would highly recommend that you take courses in learning. Most universities offer undergraduate coursework in conditioning and learning or learning theories. This experience will give you a solid framework for identifying areas of interest to you, specific to behavior analysis. Now, secondly, I would recommend that you take as many laboratory-based courses as you can. Regardless really of the class content, experience in the lab is paramount to future success. These experiences will help introduce you to the scientific method as well as the general ins and outs of implementing laboratory-based research. Most universities offer psychology-based labs, but biology-based or chemistry-based work will suit as well. Also, specific to EAB, I would highly recommend taking both science and math courses as well. Another important component to your graduate school application is your curriculum vitae. This document is like a resume, but places more emphasis on your scholarly work. When it comes to this document, you will want to stand out among other applicants. Gaining research experience in a professional lab and presenting work at conferences can accomplish this goal, and it greatly enhances your chances of being accepted into graduate study. Most university professors are always looking for extra help in the lab, so don't be shy when it comes to seeking out this opportunity. I thought that it might be useful to include a typical schedule for my day as a graduate student. I won't go through it in detail, but as you can see, it is rather jam-packed with research, coursework, teaching, and laboratory work. Needless to say, time management is an excellent skill to acquire prior to entering graduate school. I hope that this presentation has provided you with further information